Donald Trump, the fraud, the felon, the bankrupter, his word means absolutely nothing. And Donald Trump posting how he was involved in a mediation between India and Pakistan, resulting in a ceasefire. Donald Trump's trying to take credit for it. Completely false and fraudulent, like all things with Donald Trump. Let me show you what he posted. Let's talk about the facts. Then I want to talk about other news like Donald Trump's publicly traded company, Trump Media, just announced that there were material deficiencies in the accounting formula and in the accounting that was presented on public documents, not to mention the Trump Media public company that runs Truth Social only did about $800,000 in revenue for the first quarter and lost another $30 million and had material defects that it had to admit in its accounting. Probably not the guy you want to be doing a trade war against the world. And clearly Xi Jinping of China and others know this. They're waiting Donald Trump out and they see what's going on. Let's talk about what Donald Trump posted first thing this morning. This is what he writes. He goes, "After a long night of talks mediated by the United States, I am pleased to announce that India and Pakistan have agreed to a full and immediate ceasefire. Congratulations to both countries on using common sense and great intelligence. Thank you for your attention to this matter!" Explanation point. Now, one, why is Donald Trump posting something so serious like that on social media? Because he's a clown. No offense to clowns, but he wasn't even involved in this discussion to begin with. I mean, to be clear, people who are in the know said Trump and the U.S. played literally no direct role in today's India-Pakistan ceasefire. And then the ceasefire ended rather quickly. India-Pakistan ceasefire was broken shortly after Donald Trump even posted that, trying to take credit for things that he had nothing to do with. Just a few hours after the announcement of a ceasefire between Pakistan and India, Pakistan launched another wave of strikes against areas in an Indian-administered Kashmir area, and India struck back. And so the ceasefire lasted less than a few hours. Explosions were heard again on the border of Jammu and Kashmir. The Indian government also officially confirmed this information. They've accused Pakistan of violating the ceasefire. This is why Donald Trump's just reckless behavior of taking credit for things that he shouldn't be taking credit for at all and posting false data and false information. Again, it's just not what leadership is all about. And by the way, I found this one to be interesting today. Donald Trump posts this article from the Wall Street Journal, and it says, "Trump's 3 steps to economic growth." Now, the Wall Street Journal has been very critical, I'm sure you know, of Donald Trump lately. So Trump's been calling the Wall Street Journal an agent of China. And remember when Donald Trump yelled at that Wall Street Journal reporter on Air Force One and goes, "You're bad. You're from the Wall Street Journal. You're horrible." So I was like, okay, this is interesting. Trump's posting an article from the Wall Street Journal. The headline is Trump's 3 steps to economic growth. His tariffs, tax cuts, and deregulation efforts make up a coherent strategy to benefit Main Street. Now, that's literally the opposite of what the Wall Street Journal has said before. So I found that interesting. So I'm like, who wrote this? And I go, oh, Scott Bessent, Donald Trump's Treasury Secretary. It's literally an op-ed by the Trump regime. Then I looked at the date and it says May 4th, 2025. So on May 10th, 2025, Donald Trump is posting an op-ed from Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent from May 4th. How pathetic can you be? Speaking of pathetic, and speaking of Scott Bessent and Jameson Greer, Donald Trump's trade representative, this guy's a total clown as well. So they were in Switzerland today, I guess purportedly negotiating with China's trade delegation, as the Trump regime has put is in a trade war against the world, and they tariffed China at 145%. You see the Chinese delegation right here as part of these talks. I think what was most revealing about this all, though, while Donald Trump was trying to take credit for a non-existent ceasefire that he had nothing to do with, again, in my view, that just shows complete and utter weakness. What was Xi Jinping doing? And what was Vladimir Putin doing? Oh, they were just, and they're doing this stuff on purpose to taunt. Donald Trump. I want you to know what goes on behind the scenes here and the statecraft that's actually happening. And Trump's too dense, too dumb to realize it. But this is a message that's being sent to America's, I guess, former allies, because Trump's alienated everybody around the world. So there's two images I want you to see about how there's a shifting of power in the world and how America's isolated, right? Think about this image. You've got Donald Trump alone at Mar-a-Lago or D.C., taking credit for ceasefires he has nothing to do with. And then these ceasefires very quickly after Donald Trump makes that post are no longer even in place. Then you have Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin today drinking tea together. And as Spencer Hakimian says, running out the clock on American pain tolerance, just waiting for November 2026 or even sooner than that. And then this other image, though, did you notice what happened today as well? In Ukraine, in Kyiv, you had Prime Minister Keir Starmer of the UK. You had French President Emmanuel Macron. Obviously, you had President Zelensky of Ukraine. You had the new Chancellor of Germany, Friedrich Merz, and you had all of them together. Oh, and you had the President of Poland there as well. The leader of Poland was there. So you had all of them together, and showing, a united front and showing a strength together right there. I just think that that's the dynamic, and Trump all alone, and by the way, I want you to know when you think about the India and Pakistan war that's taking place, it's also a proxy war that's taking place. Pakistan gets its weapons from China. China's heavily invested in this right now because they want to test out their military equipment. And China's trying to send messages to Taiwan about the capabilities of the Chinese army, the Chinese Air Force, and Chinese missile systems. Now, on the other hand, India gets a lot of its weapons from the United States, I guess previously, and also from France and Israel. So that's actually what, in addition to them having nuclear weapons, you have the China influence in Pakistan, which I bet you that Donald Trump doesn't even know what's even happening there. I think this is important as well. As Carl Quintanilla explains, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent last week said that China was going to be devastated by the U.S. trade war against it, by the U.S. effectively having an embargo. The thing is that China has a surplus with many other nations other than the United States, and that surplus has increased, and they've basically substituted the U.S. with additional surpluses in other countries and making other relationships with other countries. Turns out China has other customers other than the United States also. China saw U.S. tariffs coming. China's trade surplus with the U.S. collapsed in April 2025. You see it in the black there. But its surplus with others began rising in January 2025, which more than offsets that fall in blue. U.S. tariffs trapped a wall of goods in China that need to get out. Those goods are now getting out to other countries. Not really hurting China that much, and that's what kind of the idiocy of this American policy is based on. And the dynamic in Switzerland over these trade talks, when the United States is out there and Donald Trump's making these social media posts, maybe we'll do 80%, maybe we'll do this. The level of, when Donald Trump says, who's got the cards, who's got the cards? And I think one of the things is that Trump doesn't have the cards that he thinks he has. And I'll give you this other data point. I mentioned it at the outset of this video. We just got, in the past 12 hours or so, the filing. They did like a Friday dump of this, the Trump media company. We got Trump's financials once again, this time for the first 3 quarters for Trump Media, which owns Truth Social. So Donald Trump's net worth has increased a lot on paper because of the value of Trump Media, which owns Truth Social. So you look at the balance sheet right here, you look at the P&Ls, because publicly traded companies, you have to disclose these things. And what you see is for the first quarter of 2025, Trump Media has a $31.7 million net loss on $821,000 in net sales. In other words, your local bakery or your local Starbucks or your local McDonald's, not the company, like the local one in your town, the one store, probably is doing about the same revenue as Donald Trump's company, Trump Media. And they sure as hell aren't losing $31.7 million. I'm going to do a longer video on this for tomorrow, but I think this is an important data point, and it ties into all of the points I'm making in this video about Trump being a bad deal maker, Trump not having the cards, and how the world views Donald Trump as so weak and utterly pathetic. Because in addition to losing, all of this money, and again, this is one of the main ventures that he has that he can't rely on, like when it actually comes to revenue generation, right? That's not the pump and dump stock stuff. Like, is your business making money? And it's like doing $821,000 in revenue, not profit, and losing $31.7 million. Now, additionally, they had to disclose that there were material defects in their accounting. I mean, just read it for yourself right here about what it says. It says here that there was material issues, that they need to, revise it. And this was after they certified that that the financials were fine. As a result, Trump Media warned there is a reasonable possibility that, quote, material misstatements may have appeared on financials. What are we talking about, folks? So you're losing $31.7 million. You're only making about $800,000 in revenue, and you have material defects on your financials, and you want us all to think that you're, some great business person? Come on. And the world's seeing that. They're sipping their tea. They're seeing the weakness show. Let me know what you think. Let's hit subscribe and let's get to 5 million subscribers. Thank you so much for watching.
New Meidas merch drop. Check out the latest pro-democracy sticker packs, t-shirts, hats, sweatshirts, and more. All at store.MeidasTouch.com.